Hello everyone, Ryan here. So the Black Album. Black Album is Metallica's 5th studio album and was released sometime in 1991, I believe August 12th, 1991. And it is self-titled, but it's commonly referred to as the Black Album, primarily because of the cover. Though on the cover there is a picture of a snake, looks like it's about to attack. So, now of course this is considered to be Metallica's most commercially successful album, primarily because this was the point at which they really simplified their overall sound. They simplified their songwriting technique, I guess you could say. But at the same time, they actually spread. What's the word? At the same time, they actually they really stepped outside of their comfort zone. Well, I'll go ahead and I'll list I'll give the track listing, and then list 5 of my favorites off of this album. So first song is Enter Sandman. I know everybody's familiar with that song. I believe pretty much like 80% of the entire world population has got to be familiar with Enter Sandman. Second track is Sad But True. Third, Holier Than Thou. Fourth, The Unforgiven. Fifth, Wherever I May Roam. Sixth is Don't Tread on Me. Seventh is Through the Never. Eighth, Nothing Else Matters, Of Wolf and Man, The God That Failed, My Friend of Misery, and The Struggle Within. So, and of course that's divided into 2 sides on cassette form, but I personally think that they should start making cassettes again. Just because, I don't know, I feel like they had a much warmer sound. Granted, I know vinyl has a much richer sound, overall sound. But I mean, come on, they're still making vinyl records. Why not cassettes? But, so 5 of my favorites off of this album, I'd say my 5th favorite would be The Struggle Within. My 4th favorite, definitely Of Wolf and Man. My 3rd favorite would have to be Sad But True. My 2nd favorite, The Unforgiven. And my 1st favorite off of this album is definitely Wherever I May Roam. Yeah. So, especially, I mean, with Wherever I May Roam, I like it has, I think that song more than any other song on this album kind of still has that classic Metallica flair throughout. Well, I mean, because essentially, I mean, like I said before, with this album, they simplified their overall sound, but they also really polished their sound, especially the guitars, and everything else too, drums and bass also. But the 2 aspects of their, I guess you could say, 2 aspects of their songwriting skills, songwriting technique that they polished the most on the Black Album was definitely the guitars and the singing, the vocals. In fact, I remember reading about, some time ago, I read something about before James started working on the vocal tracks for the Black Album, he told Bob Rock, who was their producer, it was the first time that they worked with Bob Rock on any album. But James, he told Bob Rock that he wanted to start learning how to actually sing rather than shout. And he used an example. He brought in, he played, there was a song by a guy named Chris Isaac, and so he played that song for Bob Rock. He used him as an example. He told Bob Rock, I would like to hopefully someday sing like this guy or something close to this guy. And so from there, I guess Bob Rock then started working with James on various vocal exercises. And for me, I would say it definitely paid off, because you can really tell on this album, it's definitely the first Metallica album in which James actually really stretched his vocal range. And also too, really came up with a lot of really interesting lyrical content. Not that he didn't before on their 4 previous albums, but with this one, for me, I mean, the first time I heard it, I could really tell like he spent a lot of time, considering how certain words fit the overall theme, I guess you could say, of each song. And I like that. Now, of course, there are a number of quote-unquote diehard Metallica fans that do not like this album, or rather, when this album first came out, they didn't like it. But I would say that's mostly due to the fact that they knew that this, the old Metallica that they were used to, the Bay Area headbanging thrash metal guys, that it was pretty much like they were no longer that. They were now this much more polished form, this much more polished version of Metallica. And so yeah, a lot of fans didn't like that. But I believe I mentioned before in my review for Ride the Lightning, there was one song on there, Fade to Black. And for me, I believe that song was very, very indicative of what Metallica would eventually achieve, what they would eventually evolve towards. And they did that with the Black Album. They evolved into a much more radio-friendly, commercially viable heavy metal band. And obviously I know that doesn't tend to go over so well when it comes to the more die-hard heavy metal fans, thrash metal fans, hard rock fans. But they did it, and as far as, people saying that they believe that if Cliff Burton never died, that, they think that, they would have stayed grounded in their thrash metal roots, or that they would have, or that most likely they would have never made the Black Album. And for me, I'd say, that's hard to speculate on. You can it's easy to imagine such a scenario. It's easy to say, if Cliff Burton was still alive, he wouldn't have been cool with the Black Album. No way would he have ever done that, But I mean, none of us know for sure. That's just pure speculation, and really offers nothing in the way of any kind of validation. I mean, when it comes to trying to prove that. Well, I mean, trying to prove any kind of theory or something, or I don't know. I mean, it's just speculation ultimately. Nothing but speculation. But so I would say that the first time I listened to the Black Album, I want to say it was sometime, I don't know, sometime when I had barely started high school, or sometime between 8th and 9th grade, I believe. And in fact, yeah, this is the same original cassette copy, the first one that I bought. I listened to this album a lot. I mean, pretty much surprised that I didn't wear it out. Well, I guess because eventually I purchased a CD copy of it. I do believe I eventually wore out the CD. Uh, but for me, I mean, I really liked it. Uh, I would say Enter Sandman. Even before I even listened to the album, I was already pretty familiar with the song Enter Sandman. Because even when I had started high school and I was taking my first guitar class, even in guitar class, we were already learning some Metallica songs, and Enter Sandman was like the first Metallica song that we learned on guitar. So I was already kind of somewhat tired of Enter Sandman before I listened to the entire Black Album. But once I did get my copy and I listened to the whole thing, I really liked it. I will say that the only song that I've never really been a big fan of is Nothing Else Matters. Even though I do like the lyrical content, I like the lyrics that James came up with, and I like his vocal melodies, harmonies, whatever you want to call them. And I like the guitar work itself. But at the same time, yeah, I figured it seemed like it was just, I don't know, I guess for me it seemed a little too radio friendly. But it became a hit nonetheless. I mean, I think you could say there's like just about every song on this album ended up becoming a hit. Enter Sandman, Sad But True, definitely The Unforgiven. I like the music video for The Unforgiven, where it shows pretty much the stages of life. It starts with like a little boy. I'm not sure if it starts off with a baby, and then eventually, as a baby grows into a boy, and then a teenager, and then adult, and then old man, and kind of withers away. I really like that video, and it definitely matches the overall theme of the song, The Unforgiven. Wherever I'm in Rome, like I said, I really like that. I like the guitar work on that. I also like the guitar solos. I mean, I gotta say it. Kirk Hammett got really creative. I mean, I believe creative, inventive with the guitar solos on this album. More so on their previous albums, because on their previous 4 albums, I do like pretty much all of his guitar solos. Some more than others, but on this one, like I said, even with the guitar solos, Kirk Hammett did his best to polish up the guitar solos. And still to this day, I mean, the Black Album stands out as, a really well-polished Metallica album. I don't know how else to put it other than that. It's definitely not thrash metal. So that's why I guess I could, in that regard, I would definitely agree with some of the more diehard fans saying that Metallica turned their backs on their thrash metal roots, and because this is much more hard rock. But there may be a couple songs that have a little bit of a thrash metal element to them. Maybe it's something like Through the Never, Struggle Within, Holier Than Thou, Don't Tread on Me. Those are only, really, I'd say, the only songs on this album that have somewhat of a thrash element. But ultimately, it's not a thrash metal album. It's hard rock. But I mean, hey, it's overall, I give this album 5 metal horns out of 5. Definitely, because it's stood the test of time, and I believe it still. I mean, I believe decades from now, 50 years from now, 100 years from now, this album will still remain a really well-produced, really well-written, really polished Metallica album. And to me, that's nothing to deny. That's nothing to scoff at, I guess you could say. But yeah, so I mean, 5 metal horns, I definitely give it all the way. I'll open it up here so you can see. I don't know if you can really make it out. Of course, there's James, Lars, Kirk. It was back when Kirk Hammett had a mustache. And Jason Newsted, bass player. That's one thing worth mentioning on this album too, because on And Justice for All, really, you couldn't hear any of Jason's bass tracks. But at least on this album, you can definitely hear his bass tracks. So this is the first album on which you can really hear what Jason is doing. There's a couple songs which prominently feature his bass tracks. So yeah, in that regard too, I definitely like the overall bass sound, the bass tone, because it's the first time you can actually hear Jason on a Metallica album. So that's also a plus. And not to mention, eventually, the Black Album ended up selling something like, I believe, over 90 million copies worldwide. So, hey, that's definitely not too shabby. So I guess that'll do it. Thanks for watching this review. Don't forget to like, comment, all that good stuff. Check me out on social media. All my links are down below. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I got a Facebook page. And until next time, keep it real. Keep on rocking. Peace.